New signs of optimism this morning from Ukraine's President Zelensky after a tense week of disagreements with President Trump about the war with Russia. After meeting with U.S. envoy Keith Kellogg, Zelensky says he has restored hope that the U.S. and Ukraine can reach an agreement on security. Zelensky now appears open to a deal to give the U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals, but said we need strong agreement that will really work. I gave instructions to work fast and in a very, very even-handed fashion. I want to bring in NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel in Kharkiv, Ukraine. Richard, this has been a rough week for the U.S.-Ukraine relationship, but Zelensky now seems more open, at least, to that mineral deal. What's changed?
Well, I think what has changed is President Trump went on the attack and started calling President Zelensky a dictator, said he had no approval rating, accused him of being a con artist, and made numerous threats. A threat that included that Ukraine might not have a country anymore, that Russia might end up taking more and more territory. And Ukraine certainly heard those threats. President Zelensky got the message. This country is in a very weak position right now because it is dependent on American military support. Russian troops are still here. They are attacking every single day. And if you look at the sequence of events, I think it's quite clear what happened. About a week ago, President Trump, through his Treasury Secretary, presented President Zelensky with an agreement in which, according to Ukrainian officials, the Ukrainian side had to put its name on this document, sign on the dotted line right away, a document that was non-negotiable. According to numerous U.S. officials, the Ukrainians were given 1 hour to sign this minerals agreement in which Ukraine would have to give up 50% of its rare earth mineral rights to the United States in exchange for what Ukraine felt at the time were relatively vague security assurances, not a clear outline of how the relationship would go forward. President Zelensky refused to sign. He was told at the time, we understand, that President Trump would be angry. And then, lo and behold, a short time later, President Trump started criticizing him, insulting him, calling him a failed leader, calling him a leader who's been fleecing the United States. President Trump also has been meeting with the Russians. So the message was quite clear to the Ukrainian government that unless Zelensky showed more flexibility and signed this mineral deal, that the United States could cut off its support. And then, Anna, last night, we did start to see some change in President Zelensky's evening address, and he addresses the people every single day. He said that security agreements and economic agreements must go hand in hand. He expressed some sort of flexibility to signing this this mineral deal. And then President Trump's envoy, a representative of President Trump, Keith Kellogg, just put out on X a short while ago that he had an extensive and positive discussions with President Zelensky, who he called the embattled and courageous leader of Ukraine.
Richard Engel, thank you.
Characterization.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks so much for laying it all out for us, because it's been a lot to follow, that's for sure. Appreciate your reporting there in Ukraine. Joining us now is former U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul. Ambassador, Richard just talked about how this went down. President Trump making threats after he didn't get the deal he initially wanted. Now Zelensky's more open to making a deal. So if you're the Trump team, you're looking at it and saying, hey, the threats work.
That's incorrect. I met with senior Ukrainian officials in Munich before all this trolling on Twitter. They were already prepared to sign this agreement. It got exacerbated, the tensions, because President Trump got on social media, criticized President Zelensky for being a dictator and having a 4% approval rating. And just to underscore, he is a democratically elected leader of Ukraine and has a approval rating higher than President Trump. And then President Zelensky felt compelled to reply to that in this, social media trolling escapade. And that got everything off the rails. General Kellogg and President Zelensky today are back on. The Ukrainians have understood for a long time that they need to sign this deal in order to give Trump cover to negotiate in a more systematic way. And they've been ready to do that, as far as I've been told, for a very long time. The devil is in the details. Signing a 2-page document saying you're going to cooperate on sharing the profits of minerals, that's easy. What is hard is the security guarantee part of it. And of course, that is what President Zelensky emphasized. So Trump needs to stop tweeting and being, and Zelensky needs to stop responding. Don't feed the trolls, right? And they need to let the diplomats do the very hard work of negotiating an end to this tragic, barbaric war.
One of the most striking messages this week was when President Trump said publicly Ukraine started the war. And his national security advisor, Mike Waltz, who has in the past been very, very firm when he was a congressman that it was, Russia that was at fault here. He was asked directly at the press conference yesterday whether he agrees with the president, and he wouldn't really give a straight answer. Watch this.
You wrote in an op-ed in the fall of 2023 that, quote, Putin is to blame, certainly like Al-Qaeda was to blame for 9/11. Do you still feel that way now, or do you share the president's assessment as he says Ukraine is to blame for the start of this war?
Well, it shouldn't surprise you that I share the president's assessment on all kinds of issues. The war has to end. And what comes with that? What comes with that should be, at some point, elections. What comes with that should be peace.
Who does he think is more responsible for the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Putin or Zelensky?
Well, look, his goal, Peter, is to bring this war to an end, period. And there has been ongoing fighting on both sides. It is World War I style trench warfare.
Ambassador, he was asked questions that could have been easy one-word answers. What does his response tell you?
Well, it tells me personally that I'm glad I worked for a president when I worked for President Obama at the White House, where I didn't have to avoid telling the truth. He knows the truth. He's a sophisticated guy. He knows that Putin invaded Ukraine. By the way, on February 24th, it's coming up on Monday, the third anniversary of that. 2 + 2 = 4, and Putin invaded Ukraine. You don't get to have opinion about facts. And it's just tragic to me that we're having arguments over, things that are factual. At the same time, I hope and I wish National Security Advisor Waltz well, because we need him there. We need him to try to help steer this towards America's national interests. And he's in a very difficult situation where he works for a president who doesn't actually care about basic facts. And it's not just on this issue, as you know, it's on many issues. So I wish him well, but I hope he will keep his integrity, because nobody is going to praise him if all he does is enable President Trump to undermine fundamentally American national interests. It is not in America's national interest to capitulate to Putin and give him Ukraine. It is not in America's national interest to alienate our allies and pull out of NATO. And if you're not there to do the right thing, you should not be in these jobs.